The CPI inflation data is one of the metrics that the Fed's looking at, right, to help make decisions about interest rate policy. And it's an important one and also has many components to it. So you got to dig in under the numbers to look at the different sections. There's energy, there's housing, there's food. So for example, food costs in June did not increase compared to May for US households. That's great news for like the everyday person, right? Who really feels it when eggs cost like $9 for half a dozen. I remember when that happened to me a few months ago. But that's just one category. So here's a couple points I want you to think about as CPI data continues to unfold month to month, as we continue to see what the Fed does, which, looking at my calendar here, the next meeting is July 26th. Then there's a break in August. And then there's a next meeting in September on the 20th. Okay, my calendar's hidden. There's two schools of thought here. One is, oh, inflation's coming down. It's nudging slowly. Cool. Like the Fed can back off and not keep rates so high and not have more hikes. Maybe this month they'll still have to because they've been going on and on about it. But does that necessarily mean we're going to have what's called soft landing and fully avoid a recession? I don't think so. I'm not sure yet. And this is why. So today in the Wall Street Journal, actually, my husband and I were discussing this. There was an article about how the US measures inflation differently than Europe. Not everyone realizes that, okay? We measure inflation and have in there a factor that's a very unique one, which is this. We basically go to people who own homes and we ask them, if you were to rent your home today, what would you charge for it? So that metric and the changes in that like projected rental valuation are part of our CPI. Europe, other places, they don't do that. So if you take that element out, then actually inflation has come down even better than what today's data said. And if you're listening, you're like, all right, Fema, that sounds great. What's the problem? The problem is this. What if that means the Fed went too far too fast with interest rate hikes, right? What if they kind of screwed up? They didn't look at the pace at which things were happening, and they're just so concerned about getting to their target that they kind of overshot. It's very hard to undo the economic effects of these interest rate policy changes quickly. That's not how it's set up. So if we're going to be on the verge of a credit crunch, okay, the Fed is already telling banks, like, you need more reserves on hand. If we are going to continue to have to, wait for several more months of data from these different inflation markers, it's possible that the worst of inflation is actually really behind us. And what the Fed did was pushed us too far, such that if we get a recession, it's just going to be delayed. And in the case of recessions, a delayed recession is not a good thing. The later it comes versus when it should, the worse it could be. So I just want you guys to all think about this, okay? I'm not here to just give you all the answers of what's going to happen. I'm here to process and share with you and make you think differently than just what the talking heads are telling you. So don't just take the news like, oh, good number, bad number. Look at it versus its components. Look at it for the US versus how the rest of the world looks at their data, and then weigh the actions. So I don't think we're out of the woods yet, is my point. I do think that in the short term, the market is very excited about this, and we're probably going to continue higher. But big picture, we'd still need to be monitoring.